Welcome back, dear viewers. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're still watching the Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International. Now it's time for our second topic of discussion in today's episode. And as the saying goes, a picture is better than 1,000 words. And our topic for today is going to be photojournalism and the importance of the photojournalism in this digital era that we're living in. And to shed more light on this topic, we're most delighted to be joined in the studio by Mrs. Hedayat Abdul. She's the editor-in-chief of People's Rights magazine, and also Mr. Aladin Abdel, and he's a photojournalist and author. Good morning, and thank you so much for being with us.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Aladin. First, tell us, why did you choose to be a photojournalist?
I didn't choose to be a photojournalist. I was a photographer, and I went into the line of photojournalism by pure coincidence, and then I liked it. I started off, and then I liked it, so I continued. I never thought I was going to stay for 21 years in it, but I did.
Tell us about your experience, especially that you said that you joined the field by mere coincidence.
Yes.
And if you can tell us what was the most interesting thing that made you, also it's sometimes photojournalism is marred with it's dangerous sometimes. If you can tell us about the most important moments in your life.
Adventures.
Okay, well, there are quite a few of them, but I will tackle the ones the ones I really am emotional with. It's I was a photographer, commercial photographer in the beginning, at the start, and in 1985, that's where the coincidence comes in. I covered the World Squash Championship in Egypt for Reuters news agency. They liked my pictures, and they started using me on and off. On a freelance basis. And in '86 they offered me a post as a staff photographer. I accepted. I said I'll try it out for a year or two, and I just loved it. I loved the lifestyle of a photojournalist, and I stayed on for 21 years.
Yes.
Mrs. Hedayat, as a journalist, what is the importance of photojournalism?
Well, to start with, may I just intrude to Ala's introduction, is that he's the author of a new book which is in the market, which is called Was It Worth It? An Autobiography. So if you go through that book, which is so interesting, you will see how important photojournalism is. And without a still camera, yes, you have footage of television, which is extremely important for capturing the moment and for documenting the moment. But photojournalism, without it, there is half of the business chopped off. Because without a photo, as you said moments ago, that a photo is better than 1,000 words. But a photo and words together complete the picture. So it's extremely important, and I think with the advent of the information technology and the facilities that we have today, it has become quicker, easier, and you could go anywhere on earth because, for example, in the book, one of the very interesting stories was that Ala had to charge his transmitter, and he couldn't charge it in the hotel when he was in Iran. So he got a car battery and charged it with the car battery. He improvised. So, I mean, it's also important for a photojournalist to be extremely witty and to take decisions, quick ones, and that solve very acute moments. I mean, if he was in Iran, he didn't send the photos, then let him be in Cairo better, you know? So, I mean, he had to improvise, and while he was talking to somebody there and asked him about how to charge the satellite transmitter, he told him, would the car battery work? He said, yes. So he took the car battery and he did the transfer.
I rented a car, an extra car, just to have the battery. For transmission.
Very smart. Just a wild guess, I believe the book that Mrs. Hedayat has referred to, Was It Worth It? It talks about your career and was it worth it to join the field or not? Is it
the book, the title, Was It Worth It, is mainly, was everything I did worth it? what I did in, let's say, music, or let's say in Reuters assignments, was it worth it? And I don't want to answer it here.
And sorry to jump in, speaking about your assignments, we've got some of your works and we're going to air them, and if you can comment about them.
Sure.
Please. Yeah, the picture there was, I believe, the picture in Iraq, if you can tell us more about that.
Which one?
Yeah, we're going to be there.
Yes.
Okay, this picture is Muqtada Sadr in Sadr city, and he was grooming children to become fighters.
Yeah.
They call them fighters. The West calls them terrorists and militants or insurgents. And this was a picture of a young boy, I think by the age 10, and he had the balaklava, the black mask hood, and he had a picture of one of the leaders. That's during a raid in Fallujah.
Oh.
I was, and that's the insurgents at Sadr city as well. This picture is the one I'd love, because there was a battle going on.
And this was a decisive moment.
No, hold on. There was a gun battle occurring in Sadr city.
Yes.
I think Sadr city was kept under siege for quite some time, and the Americans couldn't go in.
Yes.
Insurgents were fierce, and one day the Americans decided they were going in, and they started the assault at dawn. At around 8 in the morning, the insurgents had crippled a tank, M1A1 tank, and to the Americans this was like, wow, it's like this is not happening, and they started sending reinforcements, and the battle grew fiercer. Okay. So I was ordered to go. I went. I joined the battle area. I took pictures, lots of pictures. I went with the insurgents a bit, and I went on my own a bit. And at some point, the battle sort of simmered down.
There was a truce.
Yeah, not truce. It simmered down, calmed down. Maybe rearming themselves, or redistributing themselves, whatever. So I started going around the battle area for a walk. And as I was walking in the street, I heard a door open, metal door open. So I turned around, and this girl comes out from behind. I looked at her and I said, hello. And she started smiling. I picked up the camera, took a few shots. She went inside, and I never saw her again. But if you look at the picture, the door is filled with bullet holes.
Yes.
It's riddled with bullet holes and stuff. So to me, seeing that face, that innocence, coming with that smile, at that moment where the whole area, I mean, the whole area smelled ammonia from the amount of ammunition and ordnance that was fired, and the whole place was smoking and stuff. Her coming out with this smile was like fantastic.
Yeah.
So also we have this picture.
Yes, this is another incident. It happened in Haifa Street. Haifa Street, believe it or not, was a sort of an area. Wire services, photographers, even the Americans were not allowed to go in because there were fierce fighters inside, and they didn't want any confrontation with them. And one day again, the Americans said, enough is enough, we're going in. They went in, and as this is a fighting vehicle, it's called a Bradley, armored, it got shot. Okay, so the news hit the wires, and it became very important. And they asked me, would you go? And I said, yeah, I'll go. I went with a Iraqi cameraman, and as we were taking pictures there, I was standing, the Iraqi colleague was next to me, and another Arabian network colleague on my side with the anchorman. And as I was taking pictures, I felt movement on my left side, so I looked, and they were carrying a guy, like his chest was in blood, and they were walking backwards. So I left that location, started walking with them, taking pictures. They went to my car, and my driver was there, didn't know what to do. They put him in and they told the driver, take us to the hospital. So I said, yeah, why not? I jumped into the car and we went to the hospital, and at the hospital I took some pictures. They took him out to the stretcher and inside the operating theater. I went back to the car, going back to Haifa Street. The office calls me, says, come back to the office immediately. I went back to the office and I discovered that just after I left, a helicopter, Apache helicopter, came and riddled the whole street with bullets. The Iraqi cameraman, Reuters, had 7 shrapnels in his body. He was injured. And the guy next to me, to my right, died.
Lucky you.
Well,
So this is one of the most difficult situations you faced during your work, right?
one of them, yeah.
One of
And
them.
do you think a news story is worth it?
Well,
I mean, is worth it sacrificing one
well,
life?
we're not supposed to sacrifice. Remember, in Reuters we always had a motto, and it's there is no picture that's worth a life. So technically, we're not allowed to. We're not asked to sacrifice or to go beyond the security for a picture. But when it does happen and people get hurt, it's personal initiative. Photographers are greedy. They always want better pictures. So they will lay out their life on the line just for the sake of a better picture. I was not that kind.
Also, we have this picture.
Yeah, yes, the one before. What I liked about this picture, that's the insurgents. Again, at Sadr City, they were shooting at the crippled tank. But you can't see it here, but if you look at the guy holding the RBG, okay, he's holding it, and in his left hand there's a cigarette. I mean, he's holding the thing, he's going to fire it, and he's smoking a cigarette at the same time. This is what I liked about Sadr City. I'll tell you another thing, it's not in the story here, but like, I don't know if I should say it or not. When I arrived at Sadr City, they were mainly masked, and I started taking pictures, and one of them turned around, came towards me, and he didn't know who I was. So he pointed the gun at me and he said, who are you? And I said, I'm Reuters. And he said, what nationality? And I said, I'm Egyptian. The first thing he said is زي ليلى علوي. I said,
During the war.
yes. And I said, she's fine. And then he goes, and how's Adil Imam? And I said, oh, he's fine too. And do you know them? I said, well, I saw them at work. And then he started calling his friends, he's Egyptian, Layla Alwi, Adil Imam. I don't know if I'm doing an ad for them or not, but this is what happened. You can cut it off.
Okay. Okay, going back to Mrs. Hedayat, you said that you read the book, was it worth it? So can you tell us about the important points that were tackled, and how can other photojournalists benefit from Mr. Aladin's experience?
First of all, I believe that this book has to be translated in Arabic,
Yes.
so that you have a wide spectrum of photojournalists
Yes.
who can read it and benefit from it.
Yes.
Number two, there are 3 things in the book that have really caught my attention.
Yes.
Stories from his autobiography. The first one is that Aladin, when he was younger, he had an accident during the Sadat era.
Yes.
And he was moved to a governmental hospital where you can't really reach medical care properly. And his childhood friend was Gamal Sadat.
Yes.
So Mrs. Sadat, he writes that in the book, had intervened with the Minister of Health to help Ala recover, and that Ala's life would be saved. So he was not injured in a war, he was injured on the streets
Yes.
with his motorbike.
Yes.
This was a very impressive part of the role of Mrs. Sadat in his life. The second one was a story about late President Sadat. He had a team who played music, and he was a guitarist. And Abdul Halim Hafiz was there in the place where they were going to perform. I think it was the marriage of President Sadat's
engagement of Lubna,
Lubna,
his eldest daughter.
His eldest daughter. And what happened was that Abdul Halim Hafiz, the most famous singer of our country, or one of the top singers of our country, asked to play the org, I think, and then he played it very badly, and then he said, I'd like to play on a guitar, so it was Alaa's guitar. So President Sadat, the late president, told Ala, give your guitar to Abdul Halim Hafiz. So Ala said no. And I think in the book he says that inside him he was shocked because he was telling no to the president of Egypt and the most famous singer.
Yes.
So he, as if he was paralyzed after the word no. And then the president stopped talking for a minute, and then he laughed and left with Abdul Halim Hafiz. So it went safely, that very dangerous incident. The other thing in the book that really attracted me about his work, first of all, he gives very nice titles to the chapters, Iraq and me and Iraq,
yes.
Me and Sudan, me and Iran, etc., etc.
Well, what about you and the weird creatures that you... Is there a chapter in the file about these pictures?
No, there is a picture.
I just want to say that...
Do you know what they are?
No.
Camels.
They're the snout of the camel.
Oh.
Just the snout.
But may I tell you about this chapter about Sudan?
Yes.
The coup in Sudan. This is a real treat in photojournalism, and it is an educational chapter for any young photojournalist.
And pure luck.
Yes.
Well, the coup took place in Sudan. The airspace was closed, meaning that they cannot take a regular flight. So he improvised by saying, yes, I'm going to take a chartered flight. And he talked to Reuters, and by accident somebody in Khartoum who was close to the new leader of Sudan answered the phone, and Ala told him, I want to come with a chartered flight. So he told him, okay, we will allow you entry to the airspace of Sudan. Sheer luck. And they rented the jet, took off. When they were approaching Khartoum, the pilot was very nervous, everybody was very nervous, until the call came on the speaker inside the plane to the pilot, you're welcome to Khartoum, start preparing for landing. Then he tells you a lot of stories about how he filed his pictures, how he made the plane wait for the films to go back to Cairo and be developed in the Reuters office. Really, it's a very, very interesting. I was reading it and I was thrilled. I was as if I was in the aeroplane with them, because since I'm a journalist myself and I've covered a lot of incidents that have a lot of thrill in them, so I felt I was moved to that chapter, inside the chapter, as I read it.
Mr. Aladin, unfortunately we're running out of time, but we would like to have your final comments, please.
My final
Comments.
about
photojournalism, your experience, the book, whichever you prefer. 30 seconds.
photojournalism. 30 seconds?
Yes.
Photojournalism, I stayed on for 21 years because of the lifestyle. It needs special character. And a lot of people can do it, can work, can love it, but when they have the special character, they will succeed.
Mr. Aladin, Abdul Nabi, photojournalist, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hedayat, Editor-in-Chief of People's Rights Magazine, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And dear viewers, by this we wrap up today's episode of the Breakfast Show. We're in the company of Shirin Aladin and Aladin. Until we meet again, this is